Okay, Dr. Carlisle, I'd like to thank you for taking this opportunity to help me to go through the four-step process, actually the five-step coaching cycle, which starts with step one, increasing our strategic knowledge of instruction. Step two is what we'll be doing today, getting ready to coach. And this process will help, as I said, me to talk to you about something that you want to work on within your classroom. I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and then I will come in and actually observe based on what we've discussed. I'll collect some data, we'll have conversation about that data, and then move on to next steps.
Excellent.
So I'd like to start by going over the questions with you. And the first question is just to help me to get some background information on you. Tell me a little bit about your teacher background.
Okay. I was an adjunct professor at the University of Phoenix for 5 years, and then I transferred over to Duval County Public Schools. I spent 2 semesters working at the bridge at what was then Forest High School, and then I came over here third quarter of last year, and I've been here teaching computers and now TV production at James Weldon Johnson.
Wonderful. A typical day for you, what is that like?
A typical day for me is 3 classes. Usually on my 8 days, I'm teaching all computer classes. So I have 1 Computer 1 class, or 2 Computer 1 classes, and 1 Computer 3 class. The Computer 3 class is a little bit more advanced as far as advanced concepts that they're going to be working on. On my B days, I do a Computer 1 class, and I do 2 TV production classes, which are kind of like changing gears because you go from applications to actually working with live individuals and live productions. So it's kind of an interesting day. Kind of busy, but it's enjoyable. It goes by fast.
That's interesting. Busy and enjoyable. What, Dr. Carlisle, is the most difficult part of your day?
The challenge for my day is actually the transitions, because Computer 1 is very, very different from Computer 3 in the depth of knowledge and the expectations. Computer 1 is very, very different from TV production. So the transition, the mindset of moving from teaching a Computer 1 class to teaching one of the others, Computer 3 or even TV production, takes a little bit of a transition and kind of I guess you say a debriefing of such to transition and get ready to grasp those other concepts so that you can teach the student.
What keeps you up at night?
Trying to ensure that I make sure that the students get all of the information that's in the curriculum that they're supposed to go based on the CGA. So I spend a lot of time looking at what those requirements are, trying to create assignments that are entertaining, that are interesting, that are memorable, and that will fit the parameters of what the CGA requires.
Creating an assignment that fits the parameters. Is there a curriculum guide with any type of directives, recommendations? I know it aligns with the standards, but is it mapped out?
Unfortunately, because this is not a core class, we're at the bottom of the barrel for that type of curriculum guide that you would find in, say, a science or history class where they have the best practices. What we have are the standards. And so our job is to go in and create ideas of assignments based on the standards. So we don't have the benefit of having a sample essential question, for instance, or a toolbox of assignments that you can pull from to underpin what you're teaching. So for us, we have the standard, and it's our job to actually go in and create a toolbox of essential questions or assignments that will underpin what that standard entails. One of the benefits is once you get to know other teachers at other schools, then you guys can share toolboxes and share assignments, so it makes that job a little bit easier, but we don't have that guide that other teachers may have.
Let's talk a little bit, Dr. Carlisle, about your goals. What are 1 or maybe 2 things that you would like to work on or change?
Within the classroom setting, 1 of 2 things that I would like to work on. One thing I would like for my class to be challenging. I would like for my class to have the rigor that it should have, so that students can feel that sense of achievement. And I want to create that in such a way that it's not overwhelming for the students, because one of the problems that we can have is as we create that environment, then students will, instead of feeling a sense of achievement, feel a sense of failure. And that becomes counterproductive to what we're trying to accomplish within the classroom. So creating that balance where they have the rigor that will cause them to want to think outside of the box, and to hone those skills that they need in order to be successful in the world. At the same time, creating an environment where they feel that they have accomplished something, that they can complete the work, complete the task. That's the balance that I really want to have in the class. And so that's one of my goals, is to find that point where we're at that equilibrium. And so that's what I'm looking for now. How much rigor can I add to the program and still allow the students to feel that sense of achievement and purpose? One of the other goals I want to have as far as for me professionally is how can I change my pedagogy such that I can be a universal teacher and not just limited to one subject area, but I can go out and I can actually teach teachers or train trainers. So my long-term goal is to actually expand the scope of what I do, not beyond the classroom, but to help other teachers as well.
Good. So that would kind of incorporate your personal goal.
Correct.
So you've talked about a classroom goal, a personal goal with regards to your professional development. In terms of any prior observations, are there any areas that kind of stuck out, different areas that you may want to work on or improve in?
The transitioning, so within my class we have several activities that we work on each day. And the transitioning from one activity to the next activity would be an area that I would want to strengthen, so that as the students transition, there's a clear demarcation that this activity has concluded and now we're on the next activity, and to do that in a clean and orderly fashion.
Then let us consider that an area that we'll look at, because you've identified a focus and you've mentioned that transition component twice. You've got the transition, your mindset transition from course to course, as well as within the classroom confines or classroom context where the students are transitioning from one activity to the next, especially within a 90-minute period, and I know that there's quite a bit that you have to get in. If we are looking at that classroom transition piece, because that's a little bit more isolated than, and we'll work in the future on how we can create ways to de-stress or allow you that debriefing, that decompression to prepare from course to course. But what kind of data can we focus on or collect or look at that would help us to begin to identify some areas that we can kind of work to come to some resolve to make it a little bit smoother?
Based on prior research, the transition time, the amount of time that it takes for the students to have that clear break that this activity has concluded and the next activity begins would be something that we could use as a collection point to see if we can decrease that amount of time. So as you said, we're in a 90-minute class and we have a lot that we have to get into, and taking 3 minutes to transition from one activity to the next activity is not an acceptable time frame. 60 seconds may be an ideal goal for transition time, and I think that's something that we can measure and see how that changes.
Let's talk about what the students are doing during the transition, because I can also possibly look at what you have them doing. I don't know if you, and I've been in the classroom, of course, but to stay true to what we're looking at, monitor maybe how you have the students assisting with the collection of materials, the passing out of materials, just the piece with that housekeeping component. We can look at that too to find out what the students are actually doing during the transitions that can take it from what could be 60 seconds to, in some cases, 3 to 5 minutes.
Correct. I agree.
Would you agree with that?
Yes.
So that will give me 2 different data points to look at, and I'll come into the classroom and I will stay the entire time. So now let's talk about how that data can look as I'm collecting it, and I will pretty much like I do all the time. I'll take notes, I'll monitor, put some highlights, but we'll want to talk about what will be most beneficial to you, because we will then use this to move on to the next steps.
Okay. The transition time, I know will be something that's excellent. The duties of the students, as far as passing out job assignments and how they react to that. The confidence level of the students, as they transition from one activity to the next activity, ensuring that they have a clear understanding of what those expectations are, will be something that we can measure, and that can be done either from one-on-one interviews or even a class-wide survey to make sure that they understand what that expected outcome or what the next activity should look like while they're doing it.
That's a very good point. So if we were to create, because the time I can look at, and that'll be very easy for me to log, start time, end time for the transitions. I can also take notes on what students are doing. 5 kids over there talking, 4 kids, actively engaged in the transition, 2 kids totally checked out, whatever the case may be. But in terms of that confidence level and what the students understand to need to occur during that transition, is it a questionnaire that we can sit and create very quickly? It could be as simple as 1, 2, 3 questions that I'll hand out to them before I leave, and that'll give us a good data point. And I'll simply have the students maybe just put student 1, 2, 3, 4 without any names. But what types of questions would you want to ask them? And I can bring that with me when I come.
It could be questions. Did you clearly understand the expectations of the assignment? Did you feel that your work was completed once the allotted time had concluded? Did you feel like you need more time?